The last stage of the governmental digression, according to Plato's Republic, is tyranny. Socrates, the main character of this book, says, last of all comes the most beautiful of all, man and state alike, tyranny and the tyrant. This we have now to consider. But why does Socrates calls the most horrible of all types of regimes the most beautiful? From my perspective, in this context, he meant the most picturesque, the most dramatic, because on the example of tyranny, we may the most clearly understand his main point about the nature of human soul. So, how does tyranny come from democracy? The good which oligarchy proposed to itself and the means by which it was maintained was access of wealth, and their insatiable desire for wealth and their neglect of all other things for the sake of money getting was also the ruin of oligarchy. And democracy has her own good, which the insatiable desire brings her to dissolution. Insatiable means too great to be satisfied. Dissolution, the ending of especially an official organization or legal arrangement. And what is this good of democracy, which unfortunately leads her to ruin? This good of democracy is obviously freedom. When a democracy, which is thirsting for freedom, has evil Kabirs presiding over the feast and has drunk too deeply the strong wine of freedom, then unless her rulers are very amenable and give a plentiful draught, she calls them to account and punish them, and says that they are cursed oligarchs. Amenable means willing to accept or be influenced by a suggestion. Cursed, used to describe something that is annoying to you in an angry way. As I've already mentioned, Socrates condemns such type of unlimited freedom because it creates iniquity, disorder, and chaos in society. Then philosopher explains this sad rule of life when extreme form of liberty leads us to catastrophe. The truth being that the excessive increase of anything causes a reaction in the opposite direction. The excess of liberty, whether in states or individuals, seems only to pass into excess of slavery. And so tyranny naturally arises out of democracy and the most aggravated slavery, and tyranny out of the most extreme form of liberty. Aggravated means made more serious in a law when we are talking about crime. Then Socrates describes how the figure of tyrant appears in society. The philosopher is convinced that in democracy, some groups of people would inevitably be unsatisfied with some aspects of their life or the government, and they would inevitably need a leader. People have always some champion whom they set over them and nurse into greatness. This and no other is the root from which a tyrant springs, which he first appears above ground. He is a protector. Then philosopher describes how the tyrant strengthens his power. He is smiling and nice to people at the beginning and gives a lot of promises. And he's always stirring up some war or other in order that people may require a leader. But actually, he needs a constant war, not just to approve his leadership position, but to usurpate the authority and to destroy his opponents. And if any of them, of his supporters, of his opponents, are suspected by him or having notions of freedom and of resistance to his authority, he will have a good pretext for destroying them by placing them at the mercy of the enemy. And for all these reasons, a tyrant must be always getting up a war. Notion means a belief or idea. Resistance, the act of fighting against something that is attacking you or refusing to accept something. And here comes the most tragic process, the complete degradation of society. Tyrant uses his guards to remove the best social elements and individuals from the city to retain power. Then some of those who joined in setting him up and who are in power speak their minds to him and to one another, and the most courageous of them cast in his teeth what is being done. To cast in someone's teeth is an old-fashioned idiom meaning to upbraid or reproach a person, to throw back at a person something he has said or done. And naturally, tyrant must get rid of such individuals, and therefore he must look about him and see who is valiant, who is high-minded, who is wise, who is wealthy, happy man. He is the enemy of them all, and must seek occasions against them, whether he will or no, until he has made purgation of the state. Valiant, very brave or bravely determined, especially when things are difficult or the situation gives no cause for hope. High-minded means having high moral standards of behavior, and purgation in this context is a very fearful phenomena, means purification or cleansing. Socrates explains that process in dramatic metaphorical comparison. Not the sort of purgation which the physicians make of the body, but they take away the worse and leave the better part, but he does the reverse. Then philosopher makes a parallel with the human soul. I desire to know that all of us, even in good men, there is a lawless, wild beast nature which peers out in sleep. Lawless means not controlled by laws, or illegal in this context means disordered, uncontrolled. And you know that a man who is deranged and not right in his mind will fancy that he is able to rule not only over man but also over the gods. We may understand that Socrates means exactly tyrant, because this is type of person who is ruled by his inferior parts. This lawless, wild nature is ruled by his appetites and passions, not by his ratio. And the tyrannical man, in the true sense of the word, comes into being when, either under the influence of nature or habit or pose, he becomes drunken, lustful, passionate. Lustful means feeling or connected with strong sexual desire. If you want to study high-level English through great texts, please subscribe to my channel for more.